Twitter appears to have submitted to Elon Musk. Do you use Twitter?
Yes.
What's your Twitter at?
Nick Buckley, MBE.
Right. So go and follow Nick. But how do you feel about Elon Musk's purported takeover of Twitter?
I think it's great if it happens. I think it's great. And even if it doesn't happen, I think he's shook the company up a lot anyway. Yeah. Twitter, even though people say, I mean, it is a private company, they can do what they want.
Well, it's not. It's a publicly traded company. So it's actually not a private company. And Elon Musk wants to take it private so they can do what they want, or what he wants anyway.
It just needs a lot more light shining on the workings in Twitter. If they're completely innocent, well, great. And they can show they're completely innocent, that they don't, shadow ban people or the program's not doing this and that. And we know they are. But if they're innocent, well, let's shine some light and we'll help them out and we'll save their reputation. But if they are doing all these things, which we know they are, then, it needs to stop because, again, Twitter is influencing large parts of the Western world. And if it's that nudge, then they're unelected people who are having a big say in our democracies. And it can't be allowed. We used to have barons like this in our country who, the Earl of Wessex or something, who the king used to be afraid of. Politicians now are terrified of Twitter, terrified of Facebook, and will do as they're told. This isn't a good standard to set.
No, you were exactly right. That is such a good point because the problem with Twitter is, as you say, it's totally unaccountable. Like, there's nothing the British government can really do bar threatening to ban Twitter from the country, and they're not going to do that. So they're completely enthralled to a howling mob of Californian leftists, basically.
They could put out arrest warrants.
How's that going to be enforced?
No, I'm not saying being enforced, but those American tech giants then couldn't come to the UK or to Europe without risk of a European arrest warrant being enacted. It sends the signal that we're not having it.
But I don't think there'll be too much of a problem under Elon. But anyway, before we get into it, if you'd like to support us, go over to lotus.com and sign up for $5 a month. And you can watch this latest hangout that me and John did, or John and I did, I should say, about Google's purportedly sentient AI. Now, the fascinating thing about this is that the AI had a conversation with a chap and he posted it to the internet. And the content of the conversation is genuinely fascinating. When it starts describing its own soul, it was like, okay, we go into a bit of a thing about the Chinese box, the Chinese room problem, from philosopher John Searle. And I'm mildly persuaded that maybe this is more than merely a Chinese room, but I'll let you watch the hangout to see what that's about. Anyway, so Bloomberg did an interview with Elon Musk recently, which I think is very interesting. And he is not very optimistic about the way that things are going in the United States because it appears that Joe Biden is tanking the country on purpose. But he did say that with regards to the Twitter takeover, there are a few unresolved matters. And he's waiting for a resolution on how many bots are using accounts rather than humans. And I say this because, again, it ties to the AI conversation, because the bots can get quite sophisticated, especially when you've only got 180 characters or however many it is, 240 characters or whatever it is now, to say something. You could feasibly have quite clever bots that are using Twitter looking like people. And Twitter's been rather reticent to actually tell everyone what percentage of Twitter is bots. And it could be that quite a large percentage of Twitter is bots, and you may not even know because the bots could just be quite smart. So there's a great, and like you're saying, one good thing about Elon doing any of this, even if none of it comes to pass, is that the fact that it's made Twitter actually declare themselves and show what they actually are. As in, here are our numbers, here are the actual things that are going on our platform. Because as you say, it's massively influential to the political class of not just the Western world, but just the world in general. What government officials in any important country aren't on Twitter? They're all on it and they're all addicted to it. But anyway, these are issues that have to be cleared up before the transaction can be approved. But Musk has said, I can't say too much. But they say Musk's reluctance or inability to fully endorse the deal won't dispel speculation that he's using the bot issue to potentially blow up the transaction. Musk has said he wanted to put the takeover on hold while he investigated how many of Twitter's users are real people, and filed a formal letter with the Security and Exchange Commission in which he told Twitter executives he might walk away from the deal if the company didn't do more to prove the size of its user base. Now, I feel that Elon Musk is playing a sort of clever game with Twitter about this, because I don't think he's not interested in buying Twitter. I think he's very actually quite set on buying Twitter. I don't think you pony up 44 billion if you're not quite engaged in this. But the fact that he's sort of pulling back and pushing forward, and at one point the Twitter executives were demanding that he fulfill part of his bargain and things like this. I feel that he's playing a bit of a game with them in order to bring public scrutiny onto how Twitter operates. What do you think?
First of all, he's a very clever man.
Clearly.
So, yeah, obviously, very clever man. So I don't think we know what his game plan is at all.
Yeah, unlike the Conservatives, I think Elon Musk has a plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he wouldn't go into this without a plan.
Yeah.
The plan could be as simple as he's got no intentions of buying it, but he wants it to change. So he offers the shareholders twice the value of the share. They all jump at it. Now, before that, we were told Twitter makes no money and the shareholders don't mind because it's all about politics. And they're, no. So he's already shown that the shareholders are capitalists and do want money. So we'll sell.
But also, that's a very revealing point, isn't it? Oh, the shareholders are only concerned about the political influence of Twitter. Well, tell me more about the political influence of Twitter then. How did it get this influence? Should it have it legitimately? It opens up the door to a government takeover of Twitter because of the importance of the institution. But sorry, carry on. Okay.
But then let's say he doesn't buy it. I think the shareholders I think this might be his plan, who knows? The shareholders may then say, we've missed out on this. I was going to double my money. And we need to look at the board now. And if Elon Musk was convinced we could make money out of Twitter and he was willing to buy it, well, we want a board that's going to make money out of it. I think Twitter could change itself just through his interventions, unless he gets hold of it.
And this was exactly one of Elon's tactics quite early on in this process, wasn't it? So, well, look, the board of a company has a legal obligation in the financial interests of the shareholders, and if you're going to refuse, this massively inflated price, then you're not. It's a demonstrable point of showing that they're not acting in the economic interest of the shareholders.
And the board had no shares.
Virtually none, yeah.
They didn't even invest in their own company, so that says a lot.
Very interesting, isn't it? So anyway, Elon Musk recently spoke to Twitter in an all-hands meeting, and so it looked like this was definitely going forward, because otherwise why would he be having this strange... honestly, it came off like an interrogation by the Twitter staff of Elon Musk. And the things, I watched it, it's about 48 minutes long, and obviously Project Veritas doing the Lord's work, getting a copy of it. Everyone knew they would, though, because they've got that kind of reputation now, which is good. But it was actually more boring than you would have expected. I won't bother playing any clips for now, because it's honestly just not that interesting. He basically just spends a lot of time being interrogated by them and assuaging their fears. And he's very reasonable, very moderate, very relaxed, takes it very easy. Basically, he overall wants the user base to increase. He wants more people on Twitter. He believes in a strict meritocracy, saying, quotes, "You have nothing to worry about if you're a great contributor," which made them sound very afraid. Very afraid. Because I imagine there are a lot of freeloaders at Twitter who are there for diversity and inclusion's sake. And one of the questions they asked him was like, how will you gain our trust?
By paying you every month.
Or by firing you and hiring some other people. I mean, he's already planning. One of the questions was, "Are you thinking about layoffs?" And he was like, "Well, the company needs to be healthy," and they must be like, "Oh God." So I mean, he's planning obviously to fire thousands of them.
He's a businessman.
Yes, and he's a successful businessman.
Yes,
he knows what he needs to do. But so that's fantastic, and he points out that he's a free speech absolutist. He's described himself, and he thinks that it should be freedom of speech but not freedom of reach. And people are like, "Oh, does that mean he's going to be shadow banning?" And I actually don't think that's what he's going to do. So, Business Insider posted an article talking about this, and I think he's actually got the right impression, got the right idea here, which is basically give the leftists the ability to close their own ears on Twitter. As in, Twitter could quite easily make it so you can set up your own content filter, so you don't get to see from certain political frameworks, you don't get to hear certain words.
That is freedom of speech. You have the right to talk. You don't have the right to make me listen.
Exactly.
I can walk away.
And that's exactly what Elon's point is, which is fantastic. So he said, Twitter should allow people to say whatever they want on the platform within the boundaries of the law, but then limit who sees the comments based on other users' preferences. So, and you know what left-wing Twitter is going to be like. They'll be like, right, I don't want to see anything that is, patriotic or even vaguely contradictory to Black Lives Matter, LGBT. And so they will not hear from, a large segment of Twitter's user base. But that's fine, because most people probably won't have these extremely restrictive things about what they choose to actually see on their feed. And so that's fine. That's exactly how Twitter should have been from the word go. If you don't want to hear from these people, you shouldn't have to hear from them. But that doesn't mean you should deplatform people who would say things offensive to this small minority. And so he says, if your preferences are to see or read anything, then you'll get that, which would be my preferences. But if your preferences are, well, you prefer not to see, comments that you find offensive in one form or another, then you can have that as a setting and not see it. Great idea. So it solves all concerns, right? And so the Twitter employees were not terribly excited about this.
It's actually good customer service. You're giving your customers what they want.
That's a great point.
Without affecting anybody else. It's customer service.
And it's not privileging one group over another either. No. That's the thing. Because at the moment, the way that Twitter goes... Oh, what's this? John's just pulled this up. Tesla sacks LGBTQ and diversity heads after Elon Musk warns of the woke mind virus. When was this? Yesterday. Well, good for Elon Musk. That's very sensible. Again, what a good businessman would do, because these people are basically religious preachers at these companies. I mean, an LGBTQ and diversity head. What do you need for that? But anyway, that was something that just happened, apparently, and I wasn't aware of. So basically, Elon Musk has said that I don't think that people should be banned for violating the policies, and it should be about personal restriction, which I think is totally fine. People restricting what they want to hear. And so the good news, because obviously this has been quite up in the air, is that yesterday the Twitter board approved unanimously the $44 billion sale of the platform to Elon Musk. We're so back. This is so great.
You can get back.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's what I'm looking forward to. Yeah. My first day back on Twitter is going to be a living nightmare for certain people. I'm joking. I'm not going to be that bad. It'll be fun. But anyway, so Musk, of course, has reiterated his desire to move forward, and the board have unanimously agreed with it according to a regulatory filing on Tuesday. So that's good news. I'm very much looking forward to that. There were a few people on Twitter who weren't happy with this, as Fox News decided to report, such as MSNBC contributor Dean Oblidala, who said, well, he might reinstate President Trump. It's like, well, yeah, he might. He should. He did say that it was unjust that Trump was banned.
Yeah, absolutely shocking that Trump was ever banned.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, the sitting president of the United... Forget what he said or what he did, but the fact is the sitting president of the United States. It's
incredible, isn't it?
But the Ayatollah Iran is still on.
Yeah, the Taliban is still on.
Yes.
It's madness. But this chap says, now Elon Musk wants to put the man who waged a coup back on Twitter. Musk can be called a lot of things, but an American patriot is not one of them. Well, I don't know. I think that a patriot actually would be in favour of First Amendment levels of free speech on social media.
They don't understand the word patriot.
And honestly, those people actively hate the United States anyway. These are the people who just genuinely hate their own countries. So why would I take his standard of patriotism? But the question then becomes, well, will Elon Musk support Trump? I think he's a bit iffy about it, actually. We can go to the next one. He's on the fence about supporting Trump, but is going to be donating $25 million for a super PAC, which is Political Action Committee, basically just a political pot of money to help Republicans basically get elected. But he says, I think I'm undecided on that at this point, but he did ridicule Biden as a damp sock puppet in human form and called the Democrats the party of division and hate, which is good. And he has also endorsed Ron DeSantis of Florida.
Yeah, he's impressive.
He's very good, isn't he?
Yeah.
Based Florida man.
Yeah.
And Ron DeSantis, of course, welcomed support from African Americans, which is very nice. But so that's very good. But the thing is, this has not come at no cost to Elon Musk. And this is something I think is terribly sad, is that his daughter has disowned him. So his daughter lives in California, and she has petitioned a California court so that the court will recognize her new name and gender. So she is a transgender person now, saying she no longer wishes to be related to her famous and wealthy father in any way, shape, or form. So this is going to be the consequence of, I think, ideological indoctrination and social pressure.
I would hazard a guess that their relationship wasn't very strong anyway, and had been going through turmoil for a long time, and this is the final straw for her for whatever reasons. I wouldn't imagine this is the reason.
Well, I think there's probably a lot of social pressure because, I mean, if she's in Los Angeles, very left-wing place, and if her father is openly supporting someone like Ron DeSantis and is essentially waging a form of culture war against intersectional policy, then if you're in, if you yourself are transgender, you're going to be surrounded by LGBT propaganda all over the place. It's going to be a lot of social pressure. Why is your dad doing this? Why is your dad doing? Your dad's a bad person. Even though he's obviously not a bad person.
The left are very good at turning children against their parents. We've seen it in West Germany. We've seen it in China during the revolution there. Very good at getting children to basically grass up their parents to the states.
It's awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely awful.
Because if you can break the bond, if you can break that family bond, then you can control people. Hence why the left want fathers out of the house. You get fathers out of the house, you destroy that man, you destroy the family. They're all much easier to control.
And of all the bonds as well, the bond between a parent and child, it's such an evil thing to go after. Like it's just so awful. But she's 18 now, so she's an adult, and has decided to make this choice to change her surname to the name of her mother instead of Elon Musk, which it's all her choice and everything. But it's just, you can see that this is being done because of politics.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this premium video, The Politics of the Death of Stalin. And if you want to follow what else John is putting out, you can follow him on Getter at John Wheatley on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.